And we're here. Welcome to Breaking the Silence, conversations on grief, addiction, and healing. And I'm super excited. And you have to pronounce your last name for me, though.
That's why I don't put it on there. Oickle.
Okay. Well, that's how I hear it in my head. But I was like, I don't
Yes,
want to say it out loud. Be
doesn't
wrong.
always come out right. That's why I didn't brand my name.
Right? But I am super excited to have you here today. We had so much fun on your recording last week. I'm so excited for
Oh
that to
my
come
God.
out. It was a
Yes,
blast. So we're just going to
it was.
continue the fun. And I will let you do your intro because I know the bio I put up was just like from your socials.
Yeah,
Um,
from my website.
do a self intro and
Yeah.
whatever you want to talk about, whatever stories you want to share, and then I'll just ask questions and have
Yeah.
conversation.
I yeah. I love that you channel. So I got so many different rabbit holes I could go down because life is a journey. And we've experienced a lot in this lifetime. So, you know, your podcast is, talks about grief and healing. Well, grief comes in many different ways. And initially, when you hear the word grief, you think of death. Well, experienced a lot of that too. So, early on in my life, I had two brothers that had a hereditary disease. They passed away when I was like 5 and 9. They were 12 and 18. Um, and then I lost my mom at the age of 23. I was 23. She was 57, so very young. And that created a ripple effect because of my lack of healing and knowledge and information. It caused 8 years of nonstop trauma from that ripple effect. Looking back now, that has been a godsend because it's part of my story. It's part of my healing journey. And if I didn't go through all of that, I wouldn't be here right now. So when you look at the shit we go through and the trauma we go through, there's always a reason for it on the other side, but you've got to be open to the gratitude for the what you've had, for what you've lost, in order to be able to see it in that way and to see that light. I've
Yeah.
also lost my job for the first time ever 2 days before my 50th birthday. People go through grieving processes when they lose their job. Well, I didn't have much of a grieving process when I lost my job. My grieving process lasted like 90 seconds and then I got excited. I
I see
literally,
ya.
I know. Well, I asked for it, which is abnormal to begin with, but because of my healing journey, I didn't love my job. It brought in six figures, so it was comfortable and it paid the bills and then some. So we had a lifestyle because of it. And I did not love it. It was high stress, high demand. I was feeding the pipeline industry. And when that started to slow, the company never really took our skill set and replaced it in other areas. We were asking them to, but they just never did. So I had a conversation with my manager one day and it just kind of slipped out of my mouth that, if you're looking to lay people off, the other guys are single parents and I have a spouse and I could use a break. And I walked out of the office and I was like, holy fuck, Ann, what did you just
What did
do?
I do?
And of course, my manager's like, no, no, that's not going to happen. Well, 2 months later, it happened. They let go half the warehouse because it was so slow. They let go half the warehouse and they said that was going to be it. And then next thing I know, it was me. And it was 2 days before my 50th birthday. And I thought, wow, what a sign is that?
Right.
So I was in the office, the initial shock, because I kind of knew it was coming because of what was going on. It's like, I shouldn't have been shocked, but it is. It's a shock to hear the words. And my
Right.
manager could barely spit them out. She was so upset. And she's not one to show emotion. So she could barely spit it out that she was letting me go because it was so slow. And I'm like, okay. And then I was like, shh. And
Happy
even
birthday to me.
I know. And I describe myself as an explosive personality. So when things don't go my way or as I think they would, I sometimes, especially back then, I would get because I'm passionate. So I would blow sometimes. So I think they were expecting me to blow that I was being let go. And I was like, yes. Underneath, I'm like, yes. And the HR lady's like, you're handling this really well. And I said, well, I kind of thought that, considering my level of expertise and what you pay me, that you would have slid me into some other area of the company. And she's like, well, we don't have any other area to slide you into. I said, no, but you have new hires out there that aren't getting trained. So people in the company are going to expect you to let them go and shift us over. But that's fine. I'm fine with this. Keep them. I'm good. and and it was not what they were expecting. And when people get laid off, they instantly go to that mortified, oh my God. And I'm like, no, this is good. Like, I'm running around consoling everyone else because I'm excited. Because I thought now's the time for me to dive into my coaching business, because I had hired a coach while I was working to help me navigate a program. And out of my own fears, I never kicked it off. Even when things got slow at work, it was still exhausting because it was all that history of chaos during those years that it was busy. It drained my energy to go there. And I was still learning and navigating myself through this healing journey. And coming home, I was still energy drained, like the energy leaks were still there. So the fact that they were all gone, I was like, hallelujah. And so I didn't know what I didn't know about business. And this is a whole new industry. Like, this is not that fast paced, blunt, in your face, get it done industry. So I'm jumping on social media, which all I did before was scroll with some mild posts. Like, I do teaser posts and stuff because I had my coaching program mapped out, getting ready to launch, and never really launched it, never understood why. And out of my own fears, lack of personal development. And here I am now, laid off, and I've got time. So I start reaching out to my coaches and people that I know that are in the industry, like, what do I need to do? Like, I'm ready. What do I need to do? I thought I was ready. I wasn't. And I started reaching out to people like they told me to. And I didn't have an email list. I didn't know to build an email list. I didn't know what I didn't know. So I'm like cold reaching people on Messenger and Facebook. So on Facebook at that time, I had about 200-300 people of people that I knew, but I had 1,600 connected on Facebook, or 1,100, something like that. It was over 1,000. So I'm thinking, okay, there's 600 people that I'm connected with. I really don't know that well. I got connected with them through a boot camp that I had done, and I don't really know who these people are. So I'll reach out to them first and introduce myself, let them know that what's going on, and see who's who and what's what. And I thought, I want to be different. I don't want to just send a message. I want to send a video. So I did a generic video of, hi, I'm Ann. We got connected way back when. We don't really know each other. And this is what's recently happened to me. And this is what I'm now doing. How about we connect and fill each other in on what's going on in our lives and how can we support each other? So it was kind of a generic video. So I started sending that out on Messenger. Well, if you send any message, whether it be a video or verbiage, pictures, doesn't matter. You send too many all at once, they lock you down. It's spam. But yet they want you to host a business page and connect with people, but they shut you down when you connect with your connections as spam. So I'm like, oh my God. So I got reprimanded for, I don't know, it was like 48 hours. So I thought, okay, I'll jump over to LinkedIn. So I started doing the same thing on LinkedIn, messaging people on LinkedIn, and same thing, messages got stopped. So I was like, okay, so this isn't working. Yep. So I was like, all right, now I need to figure out, how am I supposed to connect with people? So I thought, I'll do it on social media. I'll create a group and I'll get people into the group and I'll post. So I started posting more on social media. But I didn't know I needed a clear message, and I didn't know what I didn't know. So I'm like firing shit at the wall on social media, hoping it sticks. Yeah, watching it slide down with nothing happening. So I dove in to more training because I clearly knew there was a gap in coaching business and how to bring in clients that I didn't understand. So I started diving into more training. So my first year off was nothing but more training and navigating myself, getting myself over my own hurdles. And that's when things shifted, because clearly I needed more personal development, more growth. But I started to realize that it's in my stories that I connect with people. It's in what I've navigated throughout this life that I'm going to connect with people. It's through talking about my brothers in the illness and what we've experienced. It's about talking about losing the job and what we've experienced. It's about talking about my daughter being neurodivergent and her diagnoses and everything we've navigated from that and the lack of support that we've experienced and how we've gotten through it. And all of it, it's being able to speak candidly about all of it. If it's emotional, then be emotional, not to block it, to let it flow. If it's information or education, like share bits and pieces in different ways to connect with people on different levels. So it's been a huge learning experience because I come from an industry where I just give it all to you, blunt, honest, and raw. And in the coaching industry, not everybody's ready for that. Your
Right.
ideal clients may or may not even realize yet that they should be doing something. And I'm like, I'm on social media and I'm like, you're all fucked and you need to come over here. So, like, that type of messaging doesn't go over very well. So, I had to figure out how can I be me, but dial it back and talk from their point of view and their perspective. And that is a challenge for me to this day because I'm so used to being blunt. So, calling in my ideal clients, I had to recognize I'm not for everybody, and that's okay. People that have more of an aloof or a timid personality, I'm probably not going to rock their world, and that's okay. I am like I've got that very caring, loving spirit about me as well, along with the bluntness. So you get the polarities with my personality. But life is still life. We still go through what we go through. We're always going to have challenges because it's a journey. It's not a destination. We are who we are. We are where we are. So it's being able to navigate where we've been and how we can help pull people from where we've already been.
Right. And that's what I love about storytelling. And it's age old. I mean, even before there was spoken language, we see the hieroglyphics,
Yeah.
and they were telling stories through that. And that's how they taught the next generation, is by telling the stories and bringing that back. Our stories are vital, and our experiences are what not only what makes us, but also shows us how we can impact others and how we can
Yeah.
serve and lead. And, you know, we rise together. And that's why I started this podcast after I lost my second boy. And it's been extremely healing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And, just bringing people on and listening to their stories and having conversations. And even though our stories are different, there's so much we can relate to each other.
Yeah.
And it's, I've gotten such amazing feedback about, I've never talked about this part of my life before. I had
Yeah.
one gal that came on, she said, I've never told anybody this story before. And I said,
Yeah.
well, my superpower is creating those sacred spaces and letting people be comfortable and
100%.
having that calming energy. I am very blunt and honest, like you are too. But my whole life, everybody's told me I can just talk to you, or I've
Mm-hmm.
never told anybody else this. And I'm like,
Right.
okay, there's a pattern here
Yeah.
that let's make good of this.
Yeah. 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 No, that's right. And that's the thing that I needed to overcome myself is the fact that I have value. I have these experiences and I have the ability to help people navigate through it. And I wish I could remember the words a friend of mine used because the way she worded it was so elegant. And I was like, oh my God, like when she said it, it gave me goosebumps. But she was describing my ability, not hers, but she was describing my ability to be able to help people see a different path and navigate and open their eyes and their world to new perspectives. Because at the end of the day, you know, I will never stop my own personal growth and evolution. I'm actually addicted to it. It's a little bit of an unhealthy habit when it gets
Yeah.
excessive. But it's having that balance and recognizing the balance. But in order to help others navigate, we have to continue to navigate ourselves.
Right.
And when I was working and I hired my coach to help me create my program, because I didn't know where to start or how to be, like, I didn't know anything about creating programs. People had me train people at work. So I sat at a desk and showed them how to navigate the systems and whatnot. But to start, but I was always called in as a facilitator and as a trainer at work. So I was like, that's a skill I've never really put on my so-called resume per se, but I've always been the go-to for this stuff. And it's like, okay, there's something more that meets the eye. And I love helping people. I love watching them grow and evolve from something that I taught them and watch them. Like, I don't need to have credit. I'm not that one that is at work and I'm like, look at me, look what I did. You know, people get upset when someone steals their ideas and succeed, and I could care less if they steal my idea and succeed. I really don't care. Like, my ego was never big in that regard, but it was always about having the time and energy and doing the effort. And for me, it was, I always liked the connections I made at work because I was able to make connections in a workplace that may not have been there prior. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've had a position where I brought departments together just naturally, not even realizing that they weren't together when I started there. And when I have people say to me in my past work lives that they couldn't take vacations prior to me starting there because they could never leave their stuff with anybody. They never trusted anybody enough to leave their stuff with to follow through on that, you know, they trusted the care that I gave and how I did my job. But all that came from relationships. You know,
Right.
I moved from Nova Scotia to Alberta. We wanted to move to Alberta, so I found a job first. And when I moved to that company, like, I'm at an office in Edmonton, Alberta, and I'm connecting with people out east in like Moncton and Ontario. So head office was in Ontario. I'm connecting with different management teams in different places, and I'm doing different things. And the company always wanted to bring us together like that anyway. But my
Mm.
manager was from Nova Scotia, so him and I kind of just naturally navigated that together. But building relationships with outside salespeople, and you know, that was my job as an inside salesperson, was to support them, but they always did their own thing. They always did whatever. But when I come in, it was like I built the relationships and we worked together. It wasn't I had my job, they had theirs. We called each other when we need to. It was like, no, we tag teamed.
Right.
And it wasn't just Alberta, it was Alberta, BC fell under my manager's umbrella. And we became a team. Instead of BC being BC and Alberta being Alberta, we became the team. And that became widespread over the entire country. Now, I'm not saying that's all me, but that's what I did naturally anyway before they
Right.
even rolled it out, because that's who I am. And I remember when I left them and went to the last company I just got let go of 2 days before my 50th birthday. That's the only company I've ever worked for where that did not happen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it didn't happen there. I went to that place out of desperation due to my own limited belief systems. I can own it. I'll own it now. But I should have stayed with that company because it was like a second family for me. But I left and went to this other company, and this other company was never a family for me, ever. I built some good relationships within it, but it wasn't beyond my office, my space.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't make connections with other departments and throughout the country because of how the job was structured. It didn't allow me to move outside of my my focus. And it was so busy that there wasn't a lot of time for that, where almost every other job was high stress, high demand, but it allowed for that to happen. We needed to pull on that to happen. But in my last job, it was like, no. But when it required the relationships to happen, I could make them happen very easily and very quickly. But the problem is that this company was just completely different. And management, when I spoke to management, I remember talking to the president one time, and I remember saying that this is the first company where I've never built relationships throughout the company. This is the first company I've ever worked for where I don't know everybody in the building. And she asked me why that was, and I gave her my perception of why I thought that was, but nothing ever changed because she didn't see it that way, because everybody talked to her because of she's the president. Well, to me, people would get nervous when she entered a room, but I didn't give a shit. She was just another human being to me. To me, we're at this playing field. I never considered her to be here. Company-wise, she was there, but as a human being, she's here.
Right.
She's just as flawed as the rest of us. And so I always spoke to her like a human being, and I was honest with her the best way I knew how, but it didn't change anything. So that spoke volumes for me of where perceptions were within the company, and that's why things never aligned, because everybody had their own perception that wasn't aligning at all. So I knew from the get-go when I went there that was not a company that was aligned for me, but the money was good, so I stayed. And that's one of the biggest things that if I can say out of my working career, if I had any regrets, it would be staying with a company for that reason, because it's unhealthy. It was detrimental, not just to my mental health, but my physical health. I was exhausted, the worst I've ever been. And I can take ownership of every bit of it. Like, I'm not blaming anyone, but it was my choice to stay there and to stay in that, all for this. So when I started my healing journey while I was there, because I knew I had to, I knew something had to give, because I was going to physically get ill if I didn't figure this out. So it was figuring it out on my own terms, that the chaos, the stress, all the overwhelm, like everything I was experiencing was of my own doing because of my belief systems. Going to work every day, blaming someone else, believing I think about the shit that came out of this mouth. It caused all my stress and chaos. Literally, it caused all my stress and chaos. The fact that we grew so fast, and we're telling upper management we need help, and they felt like it was just going to be, oh, this is just a blip, so we can't hire people for blips. And we're like, no, it's not a blip. I caught myself say, like, I was a broken record. Nobody's fucking listening. Like, I would say this on a regular basis, and I realized I was sounding like a broken record. And I was like, starting my own healing journey, that's when I started to realize it's not changing.
Right.
So give it up and take care of this.
Yeah.
So that's when I started to set boundaries. That's when that's around the same time I hired my coach. So a lot of things happened together. So she wasn't just my coach to help me with my program. She helped me navigate some of this stuff of what I can and can't control.
Right.
Because I was told earlier on, the only thing I control is how I think, feel, and act. I didn't grasp it, didn't understand it, but she helped me navigate it, actually apply it. So when I met with her every single week, we would touch base every day, but I met with her for my session every single week, and we do a recap. And she started to help me turn inward in a way that nobody else ever did. And because she works with the Akashic Records as well. So I get goosebumps just talking about her. I started to turn inward, which started to open up the doors to help me see the path of what I was doing to contribute to my shit. And what I couldn't control, the shit that was coming at me that I couldn't control, how I could control how I think, feel, and act around it. And that helped me navigate boundaries, because let's face it, companies, especially companies that large, they have one goal in mind, and that's to make money, and they'll make money any way they can get it. So if I allow them to tap me out work me to 9 o'clock at night, that's my fault.
Right.
And when I got to the point of burnout and I started with this coach, that's when I was like, nope, you don't want to hire people, you're going to have to hire people because my time to start and end is here. Yes, you pay overtime if I work overtime, but I'm telling you, I'm not doing it. My family is first, and you're not just getting the best hours of my life, you're now getting my after hours, and it stops here. So shit's going to start falling. Figure it out because it's not my problem. You hire me for here to here. This is what I'm doing. I'll do the best I can. I'll kill it every day during those hours. But come quitting time, I'm out that
Right.
door. And all at the same time, my child's getting diagnosed with ADD, high social anxiety, select mutism. No support from the medical side of understanding what any of that looks like. So I'm tapped out up here, plus trying to figure that all of that shit out on my own. And it's like I had to make some hard choices. And when I started to set boundaries, guess what happened? The stress, the
Right.
overwhelm, the chaos started to subside because I can't control that. If I let them do that to
Right.
me, then I'm causing the stress and the
Well, yeah.
anxiety. So I stopped letting them do it. And then within that work hour, like from that 7 to 4 o'clock at night, I would be looking at, okay, now that I've got that after hours taken care of, how can I better navigate inside the hours? Because I enjoyed my job. Like being able to help these massive pipelines was huge. And to help the guys running the pipeline, like I loved my customers. I loved helping in that regard. And that's what made my job more tolerable because I didn't hate the job itself. I hated what I was going to in the environment that was there.
Yeah.
So the people that I worked with were great people, and the customers were great customers. It's just there was no alignment, and
Right.
that's what kept me going there. So the fact that I could help solve people's problems, and I had relationships with these guys and with the staff, and we worked well together. That's what made it easier. But then I started looking at, okay, during the day, how can I stop saying what the fuck 50 plus times a day? Because I actually recorded how many times I said it because I noticed that was a broken record. And
Right.
doing the personal growth, it was like, okay, what's going in? Because garbage in, garbage out. And I'm like, okay, garbage is always coming out of my mouth. How can I turn that around? Well, it's like, okay, I'm always saying, always, like the computer freezing, any little glitch. I'm in the middle of an order and the phone rings. I was like, everything was what the fuck, and not in a good way. So I was like, I started doing little ticks, tracking how many times I said, and I counted at the end of the day one day, and it was over 50 times because I know I missed some. And that was my second broken record. They're not listening. What the fuck? So I was like, okay, how can I shift all this? Because it's not healthy. It wasn't good. It wasn't a positive. It wasn't a funny what the fuck. It was a negative what the fuck. So I was like, how can I shift this? So I thought, okay, how can I change the WTF to have a different meaning? So that when I caught myself starting to say it, so when the computer froze, it's like, okay, time to breathe. If I had the interruption when I had a deadline of an order, it's like, okay, I'm going to figure this one out. I got to. I have no choice. But it's having a
Right.
different perspective and it not being so negative all the time is what
Yeah.
helped shift the energy so it didn't become so horrible. And then
Right.
starting to joke with the people in the office about the WTFs. And one of the guys, it became, um, oh my God, Step Brothers, Daryl and Daryl. There was a saying in that movie. There was a saying in that movie. We started to say it all the time. Um, oh my God, what is it now? I forgot it already. But anyway, we started saying that all the time instead of the WTF. And one of the guys even took like the MF word and flipped it and created a instead of MF, it was, I can't remember how he reworded it, but it was funny, but it was a tongue twister. And
Oh,
it made the brain stop, like it triggered the brain to stop and rewire, and it made it
right.
funny. So it turned it into an enlightening environment versus that heavy, nasty WTF. So it was
Right.
being able to take that and shifting it. But I realized that some of us, I included, had very strong energies. And if we got negative, the whole building felt it. And when
Right.
I realized that I could impact a whole building in a negative way, I was like, holy shit, I got to shift this. Like it has to change. So that's when I really started down that path of hiring a coach because I wanted an exit strategy. I knew I was starting my 50s. So I was like, let's start a retirement strategy that I can wean into and slowly wean myself out into my business was my plan. But the universe had another plan and I let it come out of my mouth. I was like, okay, you need to lay somebody off. I can go. And then I was like, oh my God, what did I do? And the universe provided 2 months later. And but I don't regret any of it. I don't regret
Right.
any of it. It's been a beautiful journey. It's been a beautiful learning curve. I never thought 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and when I started working back in my 20s that I would be here doing what I'm doing now. Wouldn't have fathomed it.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and to be to be grateful for losing your
Mm,
job, and because like you said in the beginning, people grieve that,
mm.
especially if they're not expecting it.
Yeah.
You kind of knew that it was coming, but even then, when you're watching the downsizing of corporate positions, that causes anxiety and high stress level, and it causes the cortisol to spike. And you know, if you don't have that knowledge to shift your perspective, they you do go through grief. You
Yeah.
go through the grief of what what it used to be, and you can even grieve, am I going to lose my job even before you do? Just
Right.
like with my boys,
Yeah.
grieving who they were and grieving, you know, my expectations and my dreams and visions for my kids that never got to be because of the addictions. I
Yeah.
had to go through all that grief, but I had no idea that that's what it was.
No.
And, so being thankful for the experiences we have, even though they seem horrible or bad or, they're crazy traumatic, yes, but we chose those lessons before we came here, number one. And some of us are stubborn and hard headed, and we have to go through really deep shit before we learn.
Keep living it for 30 plus years of our adult life because we don't get the lesson.
Yeah. And, but, I, it was not long after I lost my second son. I had a friend that I met when I came back from Indiana after the funeral and everything. It was a local guy that I had met. He came and jumped my car, um, and now it's been over a year now, and so he's towed my camper every time I move, and you know, and one day he was like, we probably would have never met if you didn't lose your son. And
Mhm.
he actually was driving through that accident. He drove
No
past my
way.
son's accident.
Oh,
And
wow.
when we talked about it later, he says, "That was your child." He said, "I was there that night." And I'm like,
Oh.
but there are so many things that I can look at now and say, I am grateful
Mm.
that I went through that grief,
Yep.
because not only have amazing things happened since, but it also taught me to go back and deal with the grief that I never knew.
Yep.
I had to go back and grieve losing my foster sister at 16, and uh, grieving all those years of watching my kids in addiction and mental health crisis. And
Yep.
I would not be who I am today
No, and I
without
became
all of the experience.
100%. And I became that control freak early on. When my mom passed
Oh,
away at 23, the grieving and the chaos, I became a control freak trying to control my outer environment so that the shock of what I could predict wouldn't be so impactful. So I was
right.
always, especially, and remember, this happened at 23 is when these habits really, the belief behind the subconscious that I took on shaped the rest of my adulthood at that point because
Oh, yeah, because your
I,
prefrontal lobe was still developing.
yes. And I got to the point that when she passed away and the chaos that hit after, in order for me to be able to manage that was in control, in prediction of what are people going to do next? What can come at me? So you start to live in the expectation, what's the absolute worst that can happen to me? Well, losing my mother was the absolute worst thing that at that stage that could happen to me. I didn't even know if I wanted to have kids because I watched what she went through with the two boys. Even though their disease stopped with them, I'm not a carrier. My child couldn't end up with that. But I still went to, there's so many other diseases that people develop, like cancer, like you see kids getting leukemia and stuff. Like this would run through my head. And I didn't even know if I wanted to have kids, not knowing if I could handle that that would be the absolute worst if I had a child and lost that child. And here there's people like you that lost two in a very short period of time. You know, my mother was expecting my boys, or her boys, I should say, to pass away because they were genetically ill. She knew, she found out when she was pregnant with me that the whatever they had, they weren't going to live, not a full life anyway. So I joked about being I was a stress baby to begin with
Right.
because my mother was under so much stress finding out that the boys were not going to live while she's pregnant with me. Like that would have
Oh, kicks it
got into my nervous
down.
system at that
Yeah.
point.
And yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah, that would have been right in my nervous system from day one.
Yeah.
So I joke about being a stressed baby. She almost had me on the Halifax Bridge. She almost didn't make it to the hospital because I was the fifth child. Actually, I was the sixth. She ended up having a miscarriage between one of the boys. But all of that shaped
Right.
how I started living my life. And I became addicted to the stress. I became a control freak trying to predict my outer world and what's the worst that can happen so that I can mentally and emotionally prepare for it so I can navigate through it like clockwork.
Right.
So you can imagine being in your 20s trying to navigate the worst possible shit and control it so that if it happens, if something were to happen out of my control, I'm in control to manage it. Like that's how my brain would work at that
Right.
age and throughout the bulk of my entire adult life. So you can imagine functioning like that, how much resistance I was experiencing
Right.
from my 20s, 30s, 40s. Like I was in my mid to late 40s before I actually started to heal. I healed miniature aspects throughout that time, but not fully consciously aware of what it was I was doing and what I would heal. So habits could easily creep back in because I wasn't aware.
Yeah.
And that's how I live my life. And learning that that level of control and manipulation for me to try to manipulate the outside world so that I could control what's going on in the internal world, I had no idea that's what I was doing.
Right.
And the level, because I'm not in flow of universal laws, I didn't even know what they were. Because I'm not navigating in a holistic way, I was constantly hitting resistance. And because of my personality, when resistance hit, I would fight.
Yeah.
Like I never backed down from anybody or anything, and it was usually verbal. So, you know, when you're living in high stress, you're in that survival mode of fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah.
Well, I was always fighting. I was either fighting or flighting. And it wasn't until I got listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza when he told me that, you know, he compared us to a deer. When they have a life-threatening experience, they flight, but the minute that danger's gone, they come back down to homeostasis and go back to grazing like nothing even happened. Where us humans, we get in this heightened state and we stay there.
Right.
Well, for me, I was thriving on it from my 20s, my early 20s. When my mom passed away, I became a workaholic to avoid the stress of the family. So I took on work stress as an excuse to avoid additional stress. another type of stress, not additional stress. So I use stress to avoid another level of stress. And that became my habit. That became my way of functioning.
Right.
So I had been living in high stress, high fight, flight, or freeze, which was mostly fight for me, throughout most of my adult life. And when I realized that, I'm sitting back, and the first thing popped into my brain was, how is it that I'm not terminally ill already?
Right.
And then I thought, holy shit, don't be saying that shit, Ann, because then you're going to bring that shit to fruition. Because you know what they say, watch what you say because you bring it in. So I started hoarding off that, but I started to think, okay, I need to do something about this, because if I don't,
Right.
that will be my path for sure if I don't change it. And that's when I started the deep dive into the healing journey, which led me to coaching, which led me to everything I've been through to here.
Right.
And now I find I'm very strategic with the level of training I jump into now. Like, I got everybody coming at me because I draw it in, because I'm hungry for it now. So I draw in everybody that has something to offer. Everybody wants me to come jump into their offer, but I'm very selective now of who I pick to learn from now, because because of the personal development, I'm realizing I always need that level of spiritual development. Yes. I also still need that certain level of strategic and skill sets to help me grow as well. And I still need that level of what's next to get me to the next level, utilizing the spiritual, emotional, mental with the strategic and skills to take me to where's my next path. So even now, when I look at where I am and where I want to be, say a year from now, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now, I couldn't have even fathomed that 6 months ago.
Right.
Because it's as I grow and evolve myself, everything shifts and changes. So now I'm very strategic with where I spend my time when it comes to my personal development, and who I'm hiring, and where where my resources go, because there's only so many. If I hired everybody that came into my field like I wanted to, not only would I have no money, I'd have no time, and I'd have no business, because the 24 hours wouldn't be
Oh,
enough.
absolutely. And it can
And
become a whole toxic rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And when we still have, when we first get into it, and I found this almost in cycles every few years, you start going down that rabbit hole, and you want to learn, and you're hungry, and everything's exciting, but you have to come up for air, and you have to start embodying what you've learned. And
right.
you can't just keep thinking that you're not good enough. That limiting belief of, I must continue to learn more before I can teach, or before I can serve, or before I can lead. And I did that for years, because I'm a natural born teacher. I raised 10 kids, and I homeschooled, and, but I didn't have the confidence yet. And I didn't have the mindset of, I am enough just because I exist. So I was like, no, I got to do this. I need this certification. I got to continue just going and going and going and going. And finally, it's like, no, we don't have to be up here to help the people down here. We just have to be one or two steps above to lead them on and continue to grow together.
So you're freaking me out right now, because I just published a newsletter on LinkedIn today that talked about waiting for confidence, having the excuses. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time. I don't have this. I don't have that, before you take the leap for the confidence. I literally just did an article on this morning and published it on LinkedIn around that, what you just said. Like, you have to take the leap.
Yes.
Because confidence doesn't come from learning. It comes from doing.
Yes.
And building that resistance and understanding the belief system, because I was in that too. I had the belief system when I first got laid off. I was in that belief system. I got to learn more. I'm not ready. And it was all just fear leading people in, bringing people in and leading them through. And I had some wake up calls. I can't help anybody unless they want to help themselves. So you have to be awake enough and aware enough to say, I want to work with her because I want to get out of what she's been in. I'm that control freak. I want to stop the chaos. I want to stop the overwhelm, the stress. It's all got to be alleviated. There's one very quick, simple answer to it all, but to do it is not so simple.
Right.
We have to learn to break down all the barriers. And the quick answer is your belief systems create your habits, and that's all that's causing your stress, anxiety, overwhelm, and everything. It's that simple. But it's not that simple
Right.
to break.
Oh,
You have to go through a journey to bust that down and really dive in and understand it. And when I was at that beginning phase, somebody said that to me, I would have been like, what
oh
the
yeah.
I would have said, what the fuck?
Right.
Because I wasn't there to grasp it.
Exactly. But
But I
we
knew
choose
at the
our own.
beginning phase, I knew, yep, the high stress, the high anxiety, the overwhelm, I knew that had to change. That's all I knew.
Right.
So I gravitated to the first person that resonated with me to help me start that journey. So my journey was a little bit slower because I jumped into group sessions. So it's not one on one.
Yeah.
If I had to do things over again, I would have spent money up front and I would have hired one on one and I operate straight from the get go. But I didn't trust that any of this stuff was going to work. So I started off with what I call a slow burn. And that's doing the
Right.
free stuff on YouTube, online. It gives you the knowledge, doesn't give you the how. You got to pay for the how. And then I
Right.
jumped into a group, which was awesome because that helped me really unleash what I needed to unleash to get ready for the one on one, the deep dive. And then when I hired that coach and
Right.
spent $10,000 and did the deep dive one on one, it was a whole different experience. Like it
Oh
was
yeah.
like fast track, yes, 100%. But that's when I realized, holy shit, I didn't want to spend money on people not knowing if it was going to work, but that was my solution to get it to work because I didn't know what I didn't know. And what I learned is I can jump into all the free stuff that there is available. They educate me on why I need to make the change. You'll never get the how without paying for it because that's where the true value is. That's where the knowledge is. And if you don't pay for it, and Tony Robbins says this himself, when he first started with 17, kicked out of his house, living in his car, like can't get any more rock bottom. He met Jim Rohn, loved his stuff, loved his personal development, and he's like, I'll come work for you. Give me the information for free. And Jim's like, no. Tony's like, why? Because when you get stuff for free, it has no value. Therefore, you're not going to take the time to implement. Where if you have skin in the game, you're going to pay attention and you're going to want to implement because you had a price to pay. And I don't mean in dollars. Usually that's what the price is the dollars. But we have a price to pay in order to make change. And that is often in times of dollars. It could be an event that has happened, like ignoring it, and now you're physically ill and now you're off on sick leave. But there's always a price to pay. So we either
Oh
pay
yeah.
it by ignoring it and getting sick, we pay it in the form of dollars to stop that from happening and to get out of the shit that we're in. We pay it in the form of relationships that have been damaged, injured, and annihilated because we knew something had to change, but we didn't change it. So because of our bad habits and belief systems and everything we've been through, we've damaged relationships on the way, and or relationships got damaged because we weren't ready to deal with it either. Like we can diffuse some of these situations when we have the knowledge and the healing, but if we don't,
Right.
we can escalate them. So it's going through all. It's going to cost you something somehow, some way. At the end of the day, you just get to
Yeah.
choose.
There's an energetic exchange no matter what. It's
Yeah. And
whether
money's energy.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I love barter systems, but
Mm-hmm.
most people don't understand that money really is just a barter system, even though it takes on this whole other perception of,
Yeah.
we have to have it, but it is just energy. It's just a
Yeah.
tool.
That's
And
all.
yeah, and there has to be that energetic exchange
Yeah.
for there to be balance and alignment.
Yes.
And
And
I did all the free stuff
oftentimes,
too because I didn't
yep,
have the money, you know?
yep. Well, that's just it. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you
Yeah.
have to start there.
You have to
Sometimes that's where
start
you
somewhere.
have to start. Yep.
Right.
Yeah,
And
100%.
that's why I I will always have that option, that
Mhm.
free content like this or with my
Yes.
groups, things
Yes.
like that because I would rather draw you in where you are.
Right. And that's something I
And
had to learn because everybody would say to me, bring value, bring value. And I'm like, how? I don't know how. Well, I knew how all along. I just wasn't listening. And that was in the
right,
podcast and in the groups and in the free offerings and in the emails. Like people don't understand that when you jump into somebody's email, it's not just to be sold stuff. Yes, some people use it to sell stuff, but that's also a way for them to connect and educate you and give you extra value, extra information. I emailed my list this morning with my new podcast episode, with my new newsletter that went out today. That's all free information that you get access to that I'm giving away. So, yes, and that's when I realized that's where my value is giving the free stuff away because that's where I started too. I started
right,
there. And you have to, and it's not even a matter of do you have to spend money? It's a matter of you get to a point where you want to spend it because you realize you don't want to stay where you're at and you don't have the tools to navigate from here to there. But the
you need
free
a bigger
stuff helps you get
understanding.
to that point. Yeah, the free
Right,
stuff helps you get to that point so that you can do enough healing to recognize that hey, I need help. I don't need a therapist or the medical industry because that was me. I was like, I need something and I don't want this. I don't need that. And what else was my options? Well, groups, coaching, associations, different there's a ton of different things and a different ways to get connected and to get out there and to get what you need when you need it. And,
right.
I'm not saying everybody needs to go out and spend $10,000 on a coach, but a lot of people that have navigated and living their dream life have spent multiple thousands of dollars on people to help them wake up and get there. And,
Absolutely.
I'm not saying everybody has to do that, but it depends. What is it that you want out of this life? What is it that you want to accomplish? Like for me, I didn't just want to heal. I knew I wanted to start a business. So that brings
Right.
more value, more money to be spent because it's just not personal development anymore. It's
Yeah.
personal development with a purpose. And the
Right.
purpose is to create a business so I can have a bigger impact, a lasting impact. So,
Absolutely.
even helping other people get into business if that's what they want, I can help them with that now. I never could help with that before
Right.
because I was the employee and didn't know anything about business. So it's navigating that tool,
Right.
right? Even Grant Cardone, like I love following him and Elena because they came from nothing. Like he'll tell you he was a drug addict.
Right.
He cheated his way through school and he was a drug addict. He lost his dad and a brother at a young age. He didn't have anything handed to him on a silver platter. And Donald Trump grew up in business. So he grew up with the lingo and all the teachings of business. And they're both now worth about the same amount of money. Like they're worth
Yeah.
very close to each other. Their net worth is pretty close to being
Right.
around that $4 to $5 billion each. So it doesn't matter your
Right.
background, doesn't matter your history. You may love your job, and if you do, that's great. Then stick with it, stay with it. If you love your job and you don't love your company because it's not aligned, then stay in that field. Get a new company that's going to be more and better aligned with your values. But the thing is, no, figure out what it is you want and then start figuring out the navigational path. But the healing has to happen. The
Yeah.
personal development has to happen in there because the skills and strategies can only take you so far before your personal caps you out. And that's one
Right.
thing I realized that was
Yeah.
missing in my corporate world. So during my corporate jobs, I was asking for the training, but I couldn't get specific because I didn't know, so I didn't get it. So when I said to everybody,
Yeah.
like, I want personal development. You can give me all the sales and leadership training you want, but I need the personal development. And they're like, what do you need
Right.
personal development in? I couldn't answer it. And it wasn't until I started paying for it myself that I realized what is missing. So now I'm in the process of taking my program and having it so that I can apply it to corporate, because that's the missing piece. You can give all your salespeople all the sales training you want. If they don't feel worthy, and if they don't feel that they can reach uncapped earning potential and whatever it is you're offering, they're only going to grow so far, and they're going to stagnate. They're going to get stuck because they're stuck
Oh
personally.
yeah.
You've got to help people navigate beyond their own personal stuckness or their limitations, their belief systems, in order to break free so that those skills and strategies they're learning can actually work better and take them further.
There was a book that I was
Oh,
trying to see if I can find it. You made me think of a book that
yeah. And that's another thing. Books are a huge resource. Audibles. I love Audibles because I'm not a reader. So I love the Audible versions. Huge, right?
this is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And it is, it's nothing new that I haven't
No.
learned in my spiritual journey. It's just a different
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
And but I love the way that they teach
Mm.
it in this book. It's and I still haven't even made it through. I'm only on like chapter
Yeah.
3, and then I lost it in my pile.
Right? But even Tony says, like, everything has a pattern. So we get to a point, okay, like I recognized I was in a pattern of stress, anxiety, overwhelm, chaos. Like that was a pattern. The stress is what causes the overwhelm, chaos, and exhaustion. So understanding the pattern and breaking it down and understanding the breakdown, now I understand the patterns and I can see the patterns in other people now. And like he said, you get to a point where you recognize patterns, or you identify there's a pattern first, and then you recognize the pattern,
Right.
then you start to break the pattern down to understand it, and then you become a pattern creator. And it's like in that whole process, and I'm like, I'll never get to creation mode. And then I realized I'm already there. I'm already doing creation. I'm already creating things to help people with the patterns that I'm recognizing and identifying
Right.
and labeling to be able to break the barriers. So now I'm becoming that pattern creator. So I feel I'm just at that stage of pattern creation. And like
Right.
it's limitless when you can get
Oh,
past your limited belief systems and your your patterns within that, which are your habits. And that's one thing he really teaches on is question. When you're in that lower vibration, when you're feeling down, you're feeling exhausted and you're tired, or things just aren't going your way, or you hit that roadblock, start questioning, what belief system am I holding that's brought this to my, either in my nervous system, in my how I'm feeling, or into my awareness of the roadblock? What is my belief system that's created this and brought this to me? And is it true? And when I mean, is it true? Because this is the part where I was stuck, and I believe a lot of other people get stuck here. How do you question your own belief systems when you don't know what to question or what to ask? And that's where the coaching comes in. That's where the help comes in, because it's tough to do it on your own when you don't know what to ask. When you start to figure out the patterns, then you can start asking yourself. Like I'm to the point where I can drill myself now. I can be my own drill sergeant now. But in the past, I couldn't. I didn't know what to drill sergeant on. I didn't get it. I knew there was a roadblock, but I didn't know
we
what to
learned how to
question.
ask better questions.
Yes. Yes, 100%. Right down to, when he said, question, is it true? And I'm like, okay, how do I do that? And his next phrase was, if you were to go to a court of law, can anybody or anything bring evidence to prove it otherwise? And then he said, is it possible that X, which is the opposite of what you're dealing with, your belief system? What is the belief system? You identify it. Is it possible? What's the opposite of that now? So, is it possible is the question that we need to constantly ask ourselves, because when we hit that roadblock, so for me, when I reflect back now, it's too late to do it now, but when I was in that work environment and I hit that roadblock and I'm constantly saying they're not listening, is it possible that they're not listening because they have a lack of awareness of what's happening at this level? Is it possible that they're not listening because they got bigger fish to fry that you're not even aware of. Is it possible? Do you see how the whole thing starts to break down, and that shitty aspect of they're not fucking listening, all of a sudden it subsides because now there's different perspective of, well, what are they dealing with that I'm not even aware of? That's above my pay grade. I don't even know what challenges they're dealing with. Maybe there's another department because they're such a big company. There could be another department that needs got fires going on that need to be put out. I'm not even aware of it. So the fact that we're growing and need help, that might not, it's a big deal, but it might not be the top of their priority list because we don't know what they're dealing with over at corporate at the upper level. So when you start questioning, is it possible, and you start looking at different perspectives, it takes away your current situation. What you believe to be personal is not personal at all.
Yeah. It's very similar to Byron Katie's work in the book Loving What Is. She has 4 questions, and that first one is it true?
Yep. And that's where Tony got it from.
Really the next, is, and are you 100% sure that it's true?
Right.
And then who would you be without that belief? Not telling you to change your belief or that your belief is wrong, but who would you be without that belief? Yes. And that shifts that perception to oh, I wouldn't be so stressed. I wouldn't be terrified, And that book has been huge. And that's, reiterates again that we choose our own suffering because we are assuming we know everything, and we're forming our belief systems on that assumption that we know everything that's going on with everybody else. It's no, we don't.
And none of us have arrived. I don't have all the answers. It's a journey. And I learned that with my coach because as I'm going through, because I always joke about being the queen of questions, I am the queen of questions. I'm not great at questioning myself. I'm getting better at it. But questioning other people, hell, I could question all day long. I'm like curiosity queen, right? So I can question the shit out of somebody else. And when I hired my coach and she started helping me with my program, that's when she's like, oh my God, Ann, you challenged me so much. And I'm like, what? What do you mean I challenge you? Because she would have me on a path, she would map out her training and she'd have me on a path, and then I'd question it and she instantly goes to alternative perspectives because she's already done all this work and she's open to things. But I would remind her of things and different, and she's like, oh my God, I can't believe you just questioned me. And I remember one time she misunderstood what I said, and she thought I was challenging something she said, but she's like, the best thing happened that I misunderstood you because it gave me an alternative perspective, which opened me up to next level for her. And I was like, oh, okay, you're welcome. Cool. I didn't know I did that, but okay, cool. Right? So, but she was open and honest about it. She's not trying to be the guru by no means. Even Tony Robbins, I refer to him, he's a multi-billionaire. We think he's arrived, and he's like, I'm not your guru. I just know what to ask because I've been through it umpteen hundred times already.
And we're all still learning. We're all still in this experience. If we stop growing, we die.
Yeah, we either go backwards or death, one of the two. Yep.
Yeah.
Because he said you're either learning and evolving or you're sliding backwards.
Yeah.
And you're never stuck in one spot. You're either evolving or going backwards. And like you say, we're here. Time is going regardless, and death is the end result. End of story.
Yep. Yep.
So what are we going to do with this time? Yeah. We get to pick and choose what we're going to do this time. So do you want to stay in the stress, chaos, and overwhelm and lose that to bullshit that's all up in here? Or do we want to navigate and get rid of this bullshit so we can actually enjoy the time that we have and figure out what that joy is for us? Because what's joyful to me might not be for you. I know a friend of mine just went whitewater rafting, and I'm like, that looks like fun, but I'm petrified of drowning. So there's my limited belief system. I'm like, I'll stand on shore and you know, but I mean, that's my point. So what's
Right.
joyful for, like, I would love to go zip lining. Like, there's things I would love to do. I haven't done yet, but
Right.
the belief systems hold you back. And it's
Yeah.
like, do you want to live, or do you want to stay stuck?
Yeah. Well, and we all have those talents and those
Mm,
inherent things that, we came into this life being curious and having uncanny ability. I was the kid that brought home all the strays. Now I bring home stray people.
yes,
I
that's literally.
bring them all in.
Yeah,
But we have those things that were put in our souls for a reason.
yeah,
And
yeah,
we just have to take the time to ask the right questions and the stillness to listen.
yeah, yeah. And I'm
And
going to say this, and I'm going to try not to cry when I say it, but I had this conversation with my dad because my mom had been through so much. And I said, imagine if she was still alive now. Because dad's very private and personal with his personal life. Like, he doesn't like his laundry aired. But I said to him in a conversation one day, because when I told him I was going to dive into my coaching, he's like, be careful, business, you know. Like, oh. So I had this conversation with him. I said, Dad, you help people all the time. Like, if somebody calls and they need your help, you go running. I said, but Mom had been through so much shit with her abusive relationships, the death of the boys, her upbringing, not knowing who her father was. That's where the boys' sickness originated from. Genetic mutations, like the whole thing. Like, her family secrets go deep because that's what they did back in the day, and they did everything to bury them. So having that constant bullshit that she'd been through, and she never was quiet about it. I said, can you imagine her here today? If she was still alive and was able to talk about her experience growing up and the bullshit she
right,
had to endure there, the bullshit with the abusive relationship with her ex, raising two sick boys with you, navigating life after death because she had to learn how to live again after they passed. And you know what that's
yeah,
about. it's
yeah,
it's not easy. And she died at the age of 57 before we had all this technology available to us. I said, can you imagine the impact that woman would have right now if she could stand on stage and talk to all those people that went through all that
right,
shit? It would be
yeah.
huge.
Oh yeah. Well,
So I'm that vessel.
and that's what just came through. We were talking earlier. I have a fly bugging me um, about channeling. You are here to tell her story,
Yeah.
and
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 tell the
that's
flip.
yeah, and that's exactly my boys have told me the same thing. There
Yeah.
were we weren't done. We just couldn't do any more in human form,
No.
but we can channel through you, and we can work together to impact more people.
Yeah. And that's like my
And
daughter, her autism, the select mutism, the ADD or ADHD. She doesn't have the hyper aspect, but the focus challenge of it all. You know, we read a book. Well, we did the audio book. And she, of course, she's in the car with me, so she went through most of it, of Dolores Cannon, and she does a specific type of hypnotist or hypnotism, where
mhm,
she takes you back through past lives, and she calls in what she calls the SC, which is your subconscious, and multiple people who don't know each other have similar conversations with her about past lives and the earth and the evolution of the earth and all of this stuff. And she describes people that came to this earth that's navigating things like the autism spectrum, the ADHD, like all these diagnoses that in our scientific world are genetic, hereditary, you're born with. It's not a sickness or an illness. You're born this way. That these people came into this earth, and the reason they have a hard time navigating our societal expectations is because they've been through so much already in past lives. And because of how this society is today, they have a hard time fitting in. So the medical industry they labels them as being different with these diagnoses, but they're actually at their purest state and purest form. They just don't know how to bring that
Yeah.
knowledge to us in the human race because of all the societal pressures. And,
Right.
I often, it's not a regret, but it's something I reflect on is if I had done all of this personal growth and healing back prior to having her, would I have known these diagnoses early and could I have navigated her differently? Like, I don't regret it because it's in the past, it's happened, and it's happened the way it's happened for a reason. So I've got gratitude in the process. But at the same time, she's now 18 and we can have open conversations about this now in ways that we couldn't have back then.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
she understands that she doesn't function in society the way everyone else does. So she's now seeking how can she navigate in a way that protects her energy so it's not so draining on her. And it's a process we're figuring out because what works for her may not work for someone else. And that's
Right.
one thing I've learned is that this so-called ADHD and autism spectrum, like she's very high functioning, it's a very broad spectrum. And
Oh yeah.
how I had one person explain to me how they navigate the ADHD challenges, like they can't even to create a schedule for themselves can be an energy leak. For her, that's not her challenge. Her challenge is executing on the schedule. So what energy it would take you and I to clean our house, do dishes, and have that organization naturally come out in our brain, that's
Right.
exhausting for her. So what would take the energy level it would take, so if we have a bar from 0 to 10, for example, and for me to go through this house, do what needs to be done, I might use up 3 bars to go through, clean the house and get everything straight and organized in the way I want it. For her, it would like take 6 to 7 bars because even for her to map out what that organization looks like and what level of cleanliness is for her versus me is different.
Yeah.
So she has to prep and prepare. But she's also fanatical about constantly shifting and changing her room around, but she has to plan and get herself prepared mentally to do it days in advance so that when it
Right.
happens, she can rearrange and finish it. So for
Yeah.
her to get a job, navigating that looks very different. So
Oh
there's
yeah.
aspects of getting a job she doesn't understand. We don't know what she doesn't understand. So we're not mind readers. So we're trying to figure it out. So, she
Yeah.
applied to a job that she thought she might fall in love with. And it was one job. And we're like, no, honey, that's one job. You need to understand you're one person out of thousands that are applying for that job. So you're a needle in a haystack. You got to keep applying to other jobs and you've got to figure out and map out what it is that you enjoy doing and what you don't enjoy doing. And then when you get in with that company, figuring out if that company is going to be aligned to work with the challenges that you have. Because if they're not, it's not going to be a good fit. You might love the job, but the company may not be aligned with you. So all this stuff is navigation. And I said, even though we had to go through it, you have to go through it. It's going to be more draining and taxing on you to go through it than it is us. For us, we just move on. But for you, you're going to have to take more time to process and understand it's not personal, that, and you've got to figure out what you have to do to navigate through to be able to keep going.
Right.
So it's very different. So we were given that path for a reason and we're at where we're at for a reason. And I'm grateful for that. But it just goes to show you that the power in learning and the evolution can be so powerful because once you gain that knowledge, you can't unlearn it. Unless
Right.
unless you were unless you're in an accident and you have a brain injury, there's no unlearning. So that's the
Yeah.
beauty of it. It's stuff that can never be taken from you. Once you have it,
Absolutely.
you have it.
Yeah.
So
And then it just expands as long as you take that initiative to continue to expand.
expand. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's just it. We are uncapped, unlimited beings.
Yeah. Absolutely
Yeah.
limitless. And our subconscious brain is the only thing that limits us.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you just have to learn how to hijack it so that you
Yes.
can
Yes.
Be listening.
Yes. Yep. Love it.
Yep.
Hijacking.
Yeah, I do too. That's a Hollyism. Do you know Holly Star?
No.
Oh my gosh, yes. We call them Hollyisms. She talked a lot about hijacking your brain. But she
Oh,
has all
okay.
the
Yeah. 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 I'll have to go
funny
look her
little
up.
sayings. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
I'm sure
awesome.
you're connected somewhere along the line because
Oh,
we're all.
probably.
But
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me.
Thank you. I love this.
I do too. It's been awesome. Um, are you in my group, The Beautiful Fucking Mess?
I don't know. I think so, but I'll go check to make sure.
I don't remember. Well,
Yeah.
it was created for my workshops, and I filtered the summit people into it also because that was the summit for August. Um, but now I'm getting ready to grow that group and even
Nice.
more, and I'm probably doing a summit in October for my birth month. Um,
Oh, nice.
yeah, I'm excited because I had so much fun. I haven't done one in over 2 years. Well,
Wow.
at least 2 years because the last summit that I hosted was before I lost my oldest. So,
Yeah.
and that'll be 2 years in
Yeah.
October. So,
No, I'll make sure
yeah,
I'm in there because if you've got a summit going on, let me know if I can jump in and join
yeah.
in the fun and help out. Definitely. And the same
Uh,
with my empowered pathways. I think I got you in the
I
empowered
just
pathways as
got,
well.
yeah, I think I just
Yeah.
joined that one. Um,
Yes, because that's all about
but
people
yeah,
and
I
parents
do the monthly
navigating the
workshop.
special needs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. And I
It's
used to be
huge.
a
Yeah.
caregiver, and I have neurospicy kids too.
Yeah. And see,
But
I just started this group not that long ago, so it's not very big, but I have big dreams for it. So it's all about
right,
provide, like you say, that free support, supporting each other because of the lack of supports of everywhere. So, the special
absolutely.
the mid to late teens is where I noticed the gap was. Mid to late teens into adulthood and anybody that supports them, that's who I invite into the empowered pathways, and we empower each other. That's what it's meant there. It's meant to be for.
Yeah, and the support is so vital. Um, that's going to become like, so I've created the Triquetra Sanctuary ecosystem.
Nice.
So if you're
I
in the
love that.
group, if you're in the group, go watch the live that I did Monday. I I'm not going to say it on here because I have not actually launched and have not publicly talked about it yet. But
In time. It's coming.
well, it's coming. It's coming very quickly because I can't. I just can't stand it anymore. I have delayed gratification. So
I
I
love
had to
it.
go in my group and do a pre-launch because I had to tell somebody.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's what I did too
it's
when I'm getting my program online, and it's called Ignite Your Personal Power, where we help annihilate some of these belief systems. And I launched a wait list and I had no idea because it's the first time I put a program online. I had no idea what I was what I was getting myself into. So I started the wait list way too early. So it's up, it's running. I'm sending out emails, keep people engaged until I actually get it launched, which is coming up very soon as
right.
well. So we're getting
Yeah,
closer.
that's awesome.
It's crazy.
And it's all in divine time and order because
Yeah.
you know. And as I started, I mean, I just started building this space over the weekend.
Oh,
I've had this
wow.
vision and
That's
this.
awesome.
I've had this legacy vision for years, and I've been really called in the last couple of weeks and very adamantly in the last maybe week and a half that stop looking at you must have this physical place.
Hmm.
The frequency of your sanctuary is not a place. You need to build the sanctuary. You need to build the frequency of the sanctuary now.
Yeah.
Then the rest comes
Yeah.
later. So
The key
that's what
word you
I'm
said it,
building.
frequency. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
And that's what
everywhere.
And that's what has been. It's the energy of what I'm creating, and it's that sacred space that holds, because I'm such a multifaceted entrepreneur. I do a little bit of everything.
Yeah,
So
that's
this will
awesome.
encompass all of it, but it's got the free content, and it will have the different levels, and
Love it.
it will be, that kind of support and mentorship community that I vision as a living, breathing community at some point. But this is where it
Yeah,
begins. Yeah,
that's so awesome.
I know.
Excellent.
I'm so excited.
Oh,
I just, I get chills and goosebumps.
that's a
I was
sign you're on the
messaging
right path.
Bobby, my friend,
Yeah.
11 o'clock couple of weeks ago. It was a Friday night at 11 o'clock, and he's on this west side of Canada, so I know he's on my time, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you got to look at this, because nobody else that I know is awake.
Yeah, no, that's right. The rest of us would be heavy into snooze time.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
that's as much as I hate time zones. At least there is that,
Yeah.
when you have global friends, somebody should be awake.
Yeah, no, that's right. Somebody's awake somewhere. Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
All right. Well, again, thank
Thank you
you,
so
and
much.
I know that we will stay in contact, and I have a feeling that it'll be much more intimate as we go.
Absolutely. This has been awesome. Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful rest of your
You
hump day.
too. That's right. Hump day. Love it.
This was a perfect
Right?
way to have hump day.
Awesome. Take care, my dear.
Thank you. And oh, when go check the link after, um, because I put your link in the bottom of the intro,
Okay.
and I just want to make sure it's the
Sweet.
right.
I'll go check it.
Yeah, and you can drop whatever you want in comments, or yell at me, and I'll change the intro
I'm
even.
sure you're good. No, that's awesome. Yeah, I can add some comments if you want to pin them. That'll be great.
Yeah.